East India Company and the Conquest of Bengal, the Battle of Plassey 1757 and the Battle of Buxar 1764. The Battle of Plassey 1757 took place 100 years before the 1857 Sepoy Revolt. The Third Carnatic War was started around 1757 and at the same time Battle of Plassey took place in Bengal. The first two battles in the Carnatic were against the French and Indian rulers. The first two battles in the Carnatics against the French and Indian rulers was almost a rehearsal for the British in order to learn the details of the Indian politics. The British understood two things. Number one, Indian rulers were concerned with only their territorial gains, and no concept of nationalism was to be found. Number two, a well-trained European army formed with Indian sepoy was a great mercenary force that could be used in the Indian subcontinent. Background to the conflict at Bengal. In 1717, the Mughal Emperor Farrukh Shah presented the Royal Farman to the East India Company, which allowed freedom of trade without paying taxes on import and export. And this also gave them a right to issue dastak, which is passes for the movement of goods. The servants of East India Company were also permitted to trade, but were not covered by the Farman, which meant that they had to pay taxes similar to the Indian merchants. The Farman was a point of contention for two primary reasons. Number one, it meant loss of revenue for the Bengal administration, and number two, the dastaks, which is passes, were clearly being misused by the East India Company's servant for their own private trade. The Nawab of Bengal was clearly against this corruption and made the East India Company pay a lump sum to the Bengal administration. The perpetuating problem was that even though the East India Company could be controlled and made to pay taxes, the servants of East India Companies were evading and defying the rules wherever possible. This issue between the Bengal Nawab and the East India Company festered until 1756, when Siraj-ud-Dowlah declared that East India Company should trade in a fair manner, as they had done earlier during the reign of Murshid Quli Khan. The East India Company meanwhile had gathered experience in the two battles fought in the Carnatic, First and the Second Carnatic War. The Second Carnatic War, which took place in 1749 to 1754, was especially a turning point when Clive showed that with only 200 English soldiers and 300 Indian soldiers, Arcot, the capital of Carnatic, could be captured. East India Company, instead of paying the taxes in Bengal, applied massive duty on the goods entering Calcutta. Calcutta was under the control of East India Company. On top of this, East India Company, which is a private company, started fortifying Calcutta without taking the permission of the Nawab. This implies that the Nawab was accepting of East India Company as traders, but not as a clearly budding imperial force. Meanwhile, from the East India Company's point of view, East India Company had won major victories in the Second Carnatic War of 1749 to 1754, and now with their confidence very high, they were in no mood to back down in front of Bengal administration. Moreover, East India Company had to acknowledge that the British government had all rights to control the activities of East India Company, and in 1693, right to trade was extinguished when its charter was withdrawn. East India Company also had to pay a huge bribe of £80,000 to the king, the parliament, and the British politicians. There was no way that the East India Company was prepared to back down, even at the cost of war. Siraj-ud-Dowlah captured the English factory and marched on towards Calcutta, and thereby occupied Fort Williams in 1756. The English escaped with their ship. The English waited for reinforcement from Madras and started intriguing with the court official of the Nawab of Bengal. Chief among the people who were conspiring with East India Company were number 1, Mir Jafar, who was the Mir Bakshi; number 2, Manik Chand, officer in charge of Calcutta; number 3, Amir Chand and Jagat Seth, who were rich merchants and bankers; number 4, Khadim Khan, who controlled a massive number of the Nawab's troops. From Madras, with reinforcements, came Clive and Admiral Watson and reconquered Calcutta and signed the Treaty of Alinagar. But this was not enough for the East India Company, and they wanted Mir Jafar on the throne of Bengal. Therefore, they presented Siraj-ud-Dowlah, Nawab of Bengal, with an impossible set of demands, and thus began the War of 1757. Battle of Plassey was fought on 23rd of June 1757, but this was not really a battle. The major part of the Nawab's army under Mir Jafar and Rai Darlab took no part in the fighting. Only a small handful of troops under the Nawab, Mir Madan and Mohan Lal fought bravely until the last man. The Nawab was captured and killed, once again due to the lack of cohesive thinking and nationalism. Indians, sold out Indians, and European powers were well poised to take advantage of the situation. In the words of some Indian historians, we paid and paved the way for our own slavery. Results of the Battle of Plassey. Number 1. Free trade for East India Company in Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Number 2. East India Company received Jamindari of the 24 Parganas near Calcutta. Number 3. Mir Jafar paid 1 crore and 77 lakh or approximately 17,700,000 as compensation for attacking Calcutta. Number 4. Bribes had to be paid to the officials of the company. Clive personally got rupees 2 million and Watts took rupees 1 million. Later, Clive estimated that a total of rupees 30 million was collected from Bengal and its new Nawab Mir Jafar. Number 5. East India Company's servants no longer had to pay taxes for private trade. Number 6. Bullions imported by East India Company from England to trade were stopped. Now bullions were being exported from Bengal to China and rest of India for trade purposes, thus tilting the shift of balance of trade. Simply, Bengal was in trade deficit with respect to East India Company. British historians Thomson and Garrett have quoted, "To engineer a revolution had been revealed as the most paying game in the world. Bengal was to know no peace till it had been bled white." The East India Company found Bengal's wealth to be inexhaustible, and the East India Company's director ordered that Bengal was to pay for the expenses for East India Company in Madras and Bombay. The wealth of Bengal after the Battle of Plassey allowed overwhelming victory for the English against France in the Third Carnatic War of 1757 to 1763. Now we come to the Battle of Buxar, 1764. The Third Carnatic War had lasted from 1757 to 1763. The Battle of Plassey in 1757 gave interim relief to the British with respect to Bengal, and they could use the time to defeat the French competition in India. After the French were defeated with finality in 1763, the British now could focus on the Indian powers of the time. Thus began the Battle of Buxar in 1764. Events leading to the Battle of Buxar. Mir Jafar, who was installed as a puppet ruler by East India Company, was unable to meet the demand of the East India Company and its official, and was forced to abdicate, and his son-in-law Mir Qasim was raised to the throne. East India Company's officials took approximately 2.9 million rupees or approximately rupees 29 lakh as gift or expenses. Mir Qasim tried to prevent public disorder, remove corruption from revenue administration, modernize the army, and prevent the misuse of dustar passes. What was happening was that East India Company's servants who had dustar were illegally selling it to Indian merchants, and the honest Indian merchants were being ruined and bankrupted. Thus, to counter the British, Mir Qasim removed all restrictions on Indian traders and allowed all Indian traders the same privileges as European traders. This competition was not liked by East India Company at all and was one of the main reasons for the Battle of Buxar. Course of the battle. Mir Qasim fled from Awadh and formed an alliance with Number 1. Shuja-ud-Dawla, the Nawab of Awadh. Number 2. Shah Alam II, the fugitive and homeless Mughal emperor. East India Company and the alliance of Mir Qasim, Shuja-ud-Dawla of Awadh and Shah Alam II met at the battlefield of Buxar in 1764. The East India Company won an overwhelming victory over the alliance. The fate of Bengal was sealed, and East India Company was now the master of Bengal. It is said that the riches of Bengal allowed East India Company and the British to conquer India and the world. Result of the Battle of Buxar, Treaty of Allahabad 1765. Number 1. Mir Jafar was made the Nawab again, and later in 1765 the army was disbanded. Number 2. Bengal was administered through a deputy Subadar who was nominated by the East India Company. Thus, East India Company got complete control over administration. That is Nizamat of Bengal. Number 3. From Shah Alam II, East India Company got Diwani, the right to collect revenue of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa, and in return Shah Alam II got Kara and Allahabad, which was taken from Awadh. To clarify things, Number 1. As Diwan, East India Company got the right to all revenue collected. Number 2. East India Company's right to nominate the Deputy Subhadar meant that it could control the Nizamat, which encompasses police and judicial power. This was known as the dual government or the double government of Bengal. The Nawab of Bengal now had the responsibility of administration but no power, while East India Company had the rights over the revenue. Number 4. The fourth effect of Treaty of Allahabad was that East India Company no longer had to use money from Britain for its trade and wars. East India Company used the money from Bengal to buy goods and sell it at a huge profit in the world market. It is estimated that in 1766, 1767 and 1768 alone, 5.7 million British pounds was drained from Bengal. The fifth effect, Treaty of Allahabad, was that the Bengal famine occurred and 10 million people died of starvation. And Warren Hastings' report in 1772 stated that one-third of Bengal's population starved to death. The East India Company's policy of taking massive revenue was one of the many factors that led to 10 million people dying of starvation. The last effect of Treaty of Allahabad was that East India Company now supported Nawab Shuja-ud-Dawla of Awadh and established a subsidiary force, but the Nawab had to pay for the services rendered and maintenance of the East India Company forces in Awadh. And with this, we have come to an end. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing, liking, and adding the bell notification. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.